right, so I just want to acknowledge that lunch today is sponsored by the Atria Draper Place. You may have seen their chef come in with the food. So the chef prepared everything for us today. We have lemon fish, lemon cod, I believe it is, Spanish rice, and then a vegetable, I'm not sure what he said it was, but and then peanut butter cookies for dessert with ice cream. So we want to acknowledge Atria Draper Place today for doing that. Something very special. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, they had to get back to the facility, so they're going to come back another time and do a little talk for us as well. So that will be good. So we want to thank the chief again. It's Lunch and Learn today. Thank you so much for coming in. Just want to just bring to your attention a couple of things coming up next week. We have the Gia's restaurant trip on Wednesday. So if you haven't signed up for that, if you could please sign up. See Sally for payment for that. And just list on there your choice of what you want. I think there's a choice of fish, chicken palm, and burger, I think. Yeah. So that should be good. Anything else coming up, Sal?
We got a craft next week. We're making those Christmas trees. And she's got a beautiful ugly sweater on with ugly cat on it. That's the official name of the sweater. And sweater's not ugly, it's just called an ugly sweater. But we're doing that craft. So Monday, if anyone wants to do that craft, you can come in on Monday and just paint your tree. Tuesday is the actual, or Wednesday, Gail? Tuesday's the actual day we're going to decorate the trees. You can't do it all in one day because the paint doesn't dry fast enough. Yeah. I think that's it for me next week, right? Yeah. Put a hair dryer on it. This hair hasn't seen a hair dryer since the 80s.
Okay, we want to acknowledge the OLV students are back. They're helping us. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, is there anything else, Gail, that I forgot?
No lemons today.
No lemons from Millie. Oh, okay, okay.
I gotta put some damper on the lemon. That's
Lovely.
He has a lemon on his fish.
On the 16th,
The
we're
16th?
doing, if you guys want to wear your ugly sweaters, we're doing an ugly sweater party on the 16th, the day of our Christmas party.
Oh, okay.
So wear your ugly sweaters.
Ugly sweater on December 16th. Also, La Salette trip was rescheduled. When is that? The 14th.
Wednesday the 14th,
Okay.
we'll be going to La Salette.
All right, so if you want to see the Christmas lights, the La Salette trip was rescheduled for the 14th. That's an evening event to see the lights.
What's that?
I think we lost them, Lisa.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, can I just have your attention and we'll just do a moment of silence. Please, a moment of silence before lunch. All right, thank you. Enjoy your lunch, and the chief's going to be announcing our speaker shortly.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Lunch and Learn. I'm Chief Montminy. Thank you for coming today. I have a couple of announcements for you. First off, we want to thank Donna Copley from Atria Draper Place, which provided the lunch today. Thank you very much to them. And the cook, Billy Panoni. Thank you, Billy. I have a couple of messages before I turn it over to our guest speaker. But first and foremost, we are having the first holiday parade is going to be tomorrow. And unfortunately, it's rain or shine. So I'm expecting a little bit of bad weather, and that may interrupt the firework display. It's still being discussed right now. So we believe that the parade is going to happen tomorrow, regardless of weather. Fireworks, however, may be postponed. So I know you're all planning on being out there, rain or shine, right? Maybe not. Okay. I'll be there, rain or shine. How about that?
I'll be there.
You'll be there too? Okay.
We'll be there with bells on.
We will have bells on.
Our guest speaker today is Laura Hutchinson from NOWA, which is No One Walks Alone, and she's the program director there from Family Continuity, and she's going to talk to us a little bit today about opiates. So I ask you to give her your attention for the next 15-20 minutes, and she'll educate us all on opiates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me here today. It's kind of short notice. My coworker Lori was coming in, and unfortunately she fell ill and asked that I come, and I was very excited. My best friend is my grandmother. She's 89 years old. We have slumber parties weekly, and you know, we go out and we see the Christmas lights, we cook together, and she's my best friend. So when I got asked to come to the Senior Center, I was pretty excited because I spend a majority of my free time with seniors. So thank you for having me. Like you said, my name's Laura Hutchinson, and I'm the program director of the Recovery Support Center in Whitensville. What we do there is we support people with substance use disorder. Maybe it's alcoholism, it could be opiate addiction, and other addictions that they may have. We try to provide a safe environment for people and provide support to family members. I know it's likely that there may be people in this room that have family members who suffer from addiction or alcoholism. You know, maybe a child, a grandchild, or maybe someone in this room. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of information on that, some safety facts, and at the end I'll provide some more information, and I have business cards and plenty of resources to provide you with if you or someone you know you think would benefit from. So I wanted to start a little bit and talk about some opiates. So I'm sure some of you have heard of oxycodone, or Vicodin, maybe morphine, fentanyl. And you know, these opiates are prescribed from doctors to typically help us. You know, maybe someone has chronic pain, or we may have a medical condition. We could have an illness that it requires us to take it, a lot of times in surgeries. And sometimes these medications that were prescribed, we end up having to take over a period of time. You know, when I was in high school myself, I was an athlete, and I had a sports injury, and they had prescribed me opiates. I was in school to be a teacher, and I ended up, you know, finding myself addicted to them. I didn't realize then that it was a possibility. You know, it wasn't really talked about that we could take these things to help us, but that sometimes our body can become physically dependent on them. And it's really important that we work with, you know, our community and our doctors, local police, to talk about that and to make others aware that these medications can help us, but that we need to take them as prescribed, and the importance of that. Like I mentioned, my grandmother, again, is my best friend, and she recently had a procedure, and she was on some opiate medication. And I remember seeing her, and she had a little fall, right? And she was a little lightheaded and dizzy. And I was trying to explain to her that those were some of the effects of the medication. It scared her a little bit, you know? And her doctor hadn't really gone through it with her. So I took the time to kind of inform her and educate her on that and say, you know, maybe take it with some food. And maybe take it at this time rather at this time, and before bed. When you're more likely to be laying down rather than walking around, you know, and not driving with them, because that can sometimes be unsafe. So I'm sure some of us have had some experience with that. The opiate risk in seniors tends to go up. They say when you're 65 to 70 years old, there's more adverse effects just due to other medication that we're on. You know, I'm 36, and I can't speak for everyone in this room, but I might take a few less medications in the morning, right, than somebody else may, right? And there's less reactions. It's really important that we're, you know, honest with, you know, our doctors, providers, family, whoever is helping us care for ourselves about them, so we can find out, is it safe to take one medication with another? Again, oftentimes people are prescribed something, and they may have another medical diagnosis. If the doctor's not aware of that, it can sometimes lead to more trouble. So, that's something also really important that we want to do. They also are working with, I was trying to remember the percentage, if I were to be prescribed an opiate, say I was in a car accident and I broke my leg, right? And they wanted to give me something for pain to help me to be able to function better. They would prescribe me at a dose of typically up to 100% of the adult dose. Now, with seniors or anyone 65 years or older, they typically prescribe 25 to 50% of the adult dose. And they lower that just because of other pre-existing health issues, different conditions, and again, fall risks, confusion and things like that. Basically to really help with safety and different things. Again, over the past few years, we've really made strides with this, with doctors, with local police departments, on educating, and some of you may have heard more about this. So yeah, the next thing I wanted to touch base about briefly was, we mentioned a little bit about opiates, and I wanted to talk a little bit about change with some of that. I don't know if anyone in this room, but I know it's very likely that somebody in this room has a family member with an opiate addiction or alcoholism or something like that. And I think it's important to touch a little bit on the fact that, it is a disease, and it can be challenging. I know for me and my family, my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather at the time, when I was struggling, it put a little bit of a barrier between us, and over time, turning things around, I was able to help educate them on that process. So I provided a couple handouts. They're both very similar, but I'm just going to go over the different stages of change a little bit, and maybe someone in this room can identify with them for themselves, or again, a family member, and maybe not. Maybe you can, have the information to one day help a friend of yours. But I think it's important for us all to be educated on it. So there's the pre-contemplative stage, which is, in the beginning, I remember when I was younger, I was in school to be a teacher, and I found myself sometimes, I was missing class, and I wasn't doing things the way that I should have been doing. I knew that something wasn't right, and I would think that I wanted to do better, and a lot of times it was for my family, so I was very close with them. But I wasn't ready to admit that I had a problem with it. I was prescribed it and this and that, and I thought that because I was, that it was okay, but I wasn't taking them the way that I was prescribed it, right? And that was the difference between me and, say, my grandmother who had the accident. And then I got into the contemplative stage. And this is where I was a little more aware that I did have a problem, and I was thinking about it, and I was ambivalent to change, but I knew that I needed change. I remember being in college, and I was going to start teaching public school, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to continue this behavior and live the life that I wanted. It wasn't going to be possible. And then there's the preparation. And I'd say that was probably, I was graduating college, and I started teaching in the Worcester Public Schools, and I started to make some commitment to change. I started to tell people in my life that I needed some help. And I started to ask about addiction because I wasn't really educated on it, and I wanted to find out what I needed to help me. And that was me preparing to get some help. And then there's the action step, and the action was when I admitted, yes, I need help, and I was able to meet with some doctors and maybe therapists or people and get some help. And I went into treatment, and it was a really different experience. Myself, as you see, I'm young, I'm 36 years old, but I've had other medical experiences, right? I had been prescribed opiates for my knees and athletic injuries. I also am a cancer survivor, right? So when I went through chemo and radiation, I was prescribed opiates too. But this was a different kind of treatment. When I went to the doctors, it just felt different, right? And I wanted to stop so badly, and I wanted to get help, but the want to do it was different than the action that I had to do, you know? And I kept wanting and I kept trying and feeling like I was failing, and today I know I wasn't. I was just learning and taking the steps I needed to get to that place. And again, I think that's important to know because there's something they call, you know, relapse and treatment and recovery, and some people have like reoccurrences with substances or alcohol or whatever it may be. And I always say, if that were to happen with my cancer, right, people would support me and love me and be available for me. But unfortunately, sometimes with opiates and alcoholism and substance uses, it's not treated the same way. And I do understand we make some different decisions when under the influence, but it's important to try to educate and understand that they're both diseases, you know, and battling both of them was equally as difficult. And I can say that with my substances, mentally, it was even more challenging. You know, it was just on my shoulder and on my back. And then there's maintenance, so that's where I am today. I've been in recovery for a little over 5 years from substance use. I've been in recovery from cancer for a little over 3 years. And I have daily maintenance with all of those things. You know, I need to talk to people in my family. I talk to other people like me that support me. I go to different meetings and support groups. And I'm fortunate enough to work in a field where I'm able to help other people. Like I said, part of our job isn't just working with people that may have an addiction or a problem with opiates or something. A lot of times it's family members. I work with a lot of grandparents, a lot of children, a lot of parents. So while I'm here, I wanted to let you know I have business cards, and I'm more than welcome to speak with anyone. If anyone would like to chat, or they just want to, you know, nonchalantly take a business card and they think someone that they know may benefit from it, please feel free to reach out, and I'd be more than happy to support, whether it's today or another day. And the last thing I wanted to close with was just introducing this medication. Some of you may or may not be familiar with what it is. It's called Narcan. Anyone heard of that before? Okay, well, I'm glad to hear some of you have. So this is an opiate antagonist, and what this does is it reverses overdoses. As many of you are aware, unfortunately, nowadays there's lots of things out there that are not safe and are not prescribed. And there has been some passing of some people of all different age groups. You know, and unfortunately it's getting younger and younger. And this medication here has the ability to save lives. And it's a nasal medication. These packages have 2 of them in it each. I have more in the trunk. If anyone would like one for themselves, a family member. Some people keep it in the car. They could pass by someone. I've been in that situation before, and there's been someone on the side of the road, and I was able to help them until the police and fire department got there. So if you want more information on this, or you'd like you don't need an actual prescription, you can just have it. I'm more than willing to pass it out. And like I said, I'll be here for a little bit if anyone has any questions or would like to speak with me. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you all a happy holiday, and I hope you enjoyed your lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Actually, I have a question I'd like you to answer before. Is it possible for a doctor to prescribe an opiate for you, not realizing that another doctor has already prescribed an opiate for you?
So in the past, very much so. Today it is still possible. It's less likely because of computers and the way systems are, but there are still ways, and a lot of times in seniors, that's actually something that happens commonly because of maybe different residences that you're in, or hospitals or something like that. So it is something that is important to keep an eye on. Typically, if someone young like me goes in, they're gonna look for those things because they think that I could be seeking out something. and someone older, they may overlook that. So that is something important to be aware of. And again, if you care for yourself, be aware of it, and someone else helps care for you, hope that they can do that.
Are the pharmacy responsible for checking that out when they issue the prescription? Because I think on a computer, Massachusetts law says that they have to check with other pharmacies to make sure that they're not getting from somewhere else.
So the gentleman up front had mentioned, isn't, the pharmacy responsible for that? And in Massachusetts, is there laws? And there are laws, and, typically they are responsible for that. Again, mistakes can happen. You could make several trips in 1 week to different places, and it's challenging, So it's always just safety protocol and best practice to be safe, and to reiterate that stuff. But in general, it is something that is checked. And you are pretty safe and protected, but mistakes happen and things happen. Did you have a question?
I do have a question. So Narcan.
Yes.
Let's say somebody comes up on a friend and they see that they're out and they think they might have overdosed, but they're having a diabetic reaction or something. You give them Narcan. How does that affect you?
Wonderful question. Yes, it doesn't affect you at all. There's no negative adverse reactions to it. So if you gave it to someone and that wasn't what they needed, no harm. No harm. So I think it's worth the risk, right? Sometimes we may take a Tylenol, but we don't need the Tylenol, Yes?
Laura, you said that this happens to be a nasal
Yes.
spray. Isn't there a injection that you just, zap them with it? How do you know that you're going to be able to, what if they just totally passed out? How do you do that?
So there is an injection, and that's typically carried by emergency staff, possibly police, ambulances, rescues. It's not a prescription that someone like me or any of us could just have at home. I can open this up for you. So they used to be rather difficult. There were several steps, and excuse me. And in the heat of the moment, as you can imagine, if you were in that situation, it's pretty scary. It would be hard. Thankfully, they've now made it fairly simple. It looks similar to a Flonase,
That's right.
And you would just inject it in the nostril. If the person is laying down or anything else, that is fine. And you would push up on one side, wait a few seconds, and then do the other side. There are 2 doses in each prescription. Perfect.
This is a real unit.
Yes. Yes, that is real, but again, there's no harm to it. Brand new. And I have some of this that you're more than willing, I'm more than happy to pass out if anyone would like any. The chief's going around with that to show you a little closer. Something in my throat. Something, I don't know what. Is there any other questions?
I've lost 2.
Yes.
It's not actually a question. I used to be a pharmacy tech.
Okay.
And people would come in with
The one that I go see.
for narcotics.
Yeah.
We're going to pay cash today, which was a red flag.
Yeah.
They didn't want it run through the insurance.
Exactly.
But some of the doctors
The
were
kid that I
taking
talk
them
about
anyway.
playing
They would
football?
up the doses
That's
and
why.
just give them a new prescription so that they pay you so much for that it billed.
That's her son.
Higher doses. So some of the problem is the doctor.
It is. I don't know how she. I told her.
100%. And, I didn't want to get too much into it, but I mean, I was in college and they allowed me to stay on it for an extended period of time. And one day told me no more. And I didn't know why. When I had the flu, I thought. And I called my mom crying from college and I was like, what's wrong with me? She said, what do you mean? And one of my friends told me and they said, take this, you'll feel better. And I did, and I felt better, and I didn't realize that I was addicted, so absolutely the doctors and the miseducation of it, and that's why today we work with, local police departments and doctors, to try to help this. Much more, yeah.
Thorough checking it, everything.
Absolutely, but you're absolutely right, and that's a good point. I'm glad you brought it up. I was a little afraid to touch on some of the things, so thank you.
What's the question?
Some good websites to go to for this information.
Boy, that she's,
I think it would depend on what type of information you're specifically looking for. I can touch base with you after,
I'm thinking general,
yeah.
in general.
general stuff.
I think SAMHSA, which would be the substance use
You know what?
website, and I can provide that for you after. They have some general information. There's also websites, on
Got
Narcan.
awarded this past year for his work.
The DPH, the Department of Public Health, tends to have stuff.
How do you?
And if it's anything like treatment related or anything like that, we have a website, and it's NOWA, and I can provide that with you with my business card. We have tons of support groups, and we provide Narcan trainings and other things. And these are also on Zoom too, if someone were interested but didn't want to leave their home.
Next year, it's gonna flow. It's gonna go play with the seniors.
Any other questions? Thank you all for your attention. Give a little hand to Laura.